You are now tuned into the No Cap Guys podcast, and we are just a bunch of barbers about our mother business. And I'm your host, the Chris Chaney, hashtag gangster nerd, here to have a real, uncut, no chaser conversation about the business of her. So sit back, buckle up, and enjoy the ride, baby.
Come from the slums of monks from down under, what I bet you a man to make your boy. Yeah. Man, he about to come up. Don't even shut up.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's right. You are tuned in to the No Cap Guys podcast, and I am your host, the Chris Chaney, hashtag gangster nerd. Today, what we're going to do is dive into the world of barbers and the business of hair. That's the overall goal here, you know what I'm saying? The purpose and theme of this podcast, the goal here is we're all about empowering barbers and hair care professionals with the knowledge they need to thrive in their businesses. You know, a lot of times what we do is we start businesses because we can do the task of the business, but then we get in the weeds of how business works. I can't tell you how many hair care professionals, barbers that I've talked to that they're just overwhelmed when it comes to the literal business aspects of what they do. They can do their craft very well. One thing that pops in my mind all the time in this space is you'll have barbers and hair care professionals say, hey, look, master your craft, learn to master your craft. Well, unfortunately, what they're talking about is solely doing the work. But business is a 360 situation. Business is a well-rounded situation, and what happens is if you just focus on the act of doing the work, you tend to miss out on what it takes to work on the business and not just in the business. And sure, in the very beginning, what you'll be doing is working in the business hard as hell. You're trading 40 hours a week and guarantees for 80 hours a week and no guarantees. I mean, you actually, and I've said this before in some of my videos on TikTok and Instagram, but what you're actually doing is trading getting paid to come to work to paying to go to work. And listen, welcome to the club of the crazy as hell. I'm gonna call it the crazy as hell club. Welcome to the crazy as hell club, because that's ultimately is what you joined. As a bunch of lunatics who believe in betting on themselves in order to get to the next level. So welcome to the club. And again, one of my missions is to share insider secrets, strategies, and wisdom from the top 1%. All right, information that the top 1% is using that we can apply to our businesses right now where we are. A little bit of my background, man. I bring a little bit of experience to the table. I'm a licensed barber. I'm a licensed instructor. I'm a business consultant, tax professional, and also I am a published author. The book that I wrote, The Business of Hair, An Entrepreneur's Perspective, I wrote that book in 2020 when we were shut down due to the COVID-19 virus. I wrote it in 2020, and one of the reasons that I wrote the book, I was on Facebook, man, and I was seeing so many barbers across the country kind of just going through it. You know, some barbers trying to figure out, you know, if it was appropriate to still be cutting hair, and you had barbers that like, man, you know, we still gotta eat. And you had shop owners still charging booth rent, and barbers who were paying booth rent when the shop wasn't open. They didn't think it was fair, and there was a lot going on in 2020. And at that time, what I did was, man, I was just like, you know, there are some things and options that my company used in 2020 and 2021 to make sure the doors stayed open. And I wanted to share those perspectives with the barber community. And then at that point, what I did was at the nudging of one of my mentors, man, I started really studying taxes super heavy, to the point where, you know, I would apply for certain certifications and take certain tests, and, you know, to get continuing education hours and whatnot in this space. And so that was the birth of the Business of Hair, the book. And then, when I got my instructor license, being able to go back into the school and teach the students, what I started to do with some encouragement from the students is just kind of start to build this Business of Hair platform, saying, all right, listen, there's a difference between, in my mind, there's a difference between the barber industry, what we do as barbers, and then the business of hair, how we move in the business space, right? So like if you Google business books for barbers, there's probably like 20, 25, maybe 30 books out there. But if you Google business books, man, you'll get thousands of books. And so what I saw was basically a disconnect between, the day-to-day operations in the average barbershop and then the operations of, let's say, the big box players, Sport Clips, Great Clips, all of the franchise. And then there's some privately held companies that, for the most part, they run like the big box players. American Barbershop in Atlanta, Hudson and Hawk here in Arkansas and Southern Missouri, the No Grease barbershops out on the East Coast. And so you start to see that there's a difference between how these barbershops are running from a business standpoint versus kind of the average kind of mom and pop. There's a book called The Long Tail Effect. And what I think about in our space is if you look at if you look at a comet, you see the head of the comet and then you see a tail. And then in our space, when you see shops open up, there's a perpetuation from a business model standpoint. There's a perpetuation, or there's been a perpetuation of the tail and not a perpetuation of the head on the comet. And then when you look at Pareto's principle, the 80-20 rule, what you'll find mathematically is, man, it's 20% of the shops in the country is getting 80% of the money, 20% of the businesses, roughly. And then 80%, the majority, mass majority, overwhelming majority, is getting 20% of the money. And I think that's where you start to see arguments online as it relates to price changes and raising prices and this, that, and the third. Because what's going on is, and man, listen, when I came into the barber industry, I owned a whole nother business. Like, I didn't need the money in the barber industry when I first came into the business. I came into the business to do what one of my good friends, Mike Shelton, says is to buy back my time. I owned a janitorial company, and man, I was out, 40, 50 hours a week. And just in the way I was working, I said, man, I don't want to do this anymore. Then I was encouraged by Mike Shelton and his brother, Jesse Soto, the owners of Uptown Barber Lounge in Northwest Arkansas. I was encouraged to go to barber school. But then again, when I got into the space, I had already, man, in my Audible collection, I got about 400 books, over 400 books. And so I'd already been ingesting so much information on business just to be able to run my cleaning company and run it efficiently, that when I got into the barber space, I was like, man, what the hell is going on here? Like, to me, it was in general, it was in disarray until I met the owners of No Grease out in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I was exposed to individuals conducting business in a space that business sometimes can be counterintuitive to. Oftentimes when I'm talking to students, they come into the school, they say, man, I didn't realize I was signing up for business school. And that thought process perplexes me, because not realizing that you're signing up to run a business when you go to barber school just kind of shows the disconnect in the thought process of the new barber coming into this space. Maybe not the seasoned barber. Maybe the seasoned barber is like, hey man, look, I figured it out years ago. But again, I'm an instructor, so I'm dealing with new students. Man, almost every week I'm dealing with new students, and so and when I deal with new students, I've had students specifically tell me that I didn't come to school to hear all of this. And then I've had students tell me specifically, man, I didn't even know that what you're saying, I never thought about what you're saying until I came to school and met you. And so that's what really pushes me and prompts me to really go hard in this space, in the business of hair space. And again, one of the reasons I wrote the book, one of the reasons I pushed the book, I didn't push it I didn't push it initially. If I'm honest with you, it was imposter syndrome. Like, I felt like at the time I was just a barber talking about taxes, and in my head, like I said, I was in imposter syndrome. I was in my own head, and I said, man, nobody's gonna listen to what I gotta say. And then a few months ago, I went down to Atlanta for a class with about 40 tax professionals, all right? And we're having this conversation around taxes and different things like that. And I'm answering these questions, and they're like, what, bro, like, hold on. How long have you been preparing? They're like, hey, how long have you been preparing taxes? And I'm like, I've never prepared a tax return. And they're like, they're looking at me like I'm crazy now, because they're like, all of this about taxes and you've never prepared a tax return. And initially for me, the scope of work that I did as a tax professional was just basically tax planning, right? So I would, I'd sit down with people and I say, hey man, what's your long game? What's your 2-year, 5-year, 10-year goal? And then how do we, from where you are right now, how do we get you on track to get there, to reach those goals? And then, how do you build your business around that, right? How do you move with the end in mind when you're doing your business? A lot of times, for the most part, what we do is when we start these businesses, primarily, of course, we're talking in the barber space primarily, but this concept works for anybody, right? So when you start your business, primarily what happens is you get to a point where you say to yourself, I can do the job better than the person that I'm working for. I can do the job better. And whether that's you're saying, hey man, I can do this, man, I can run a shop better than the guy that's running the current space. Or whether you get pissed off at the guy, you get pissed off at each other, or in some cases that I've heard, I've talked with barbers, and it's crazy as hell, but in some cases, you get an owner who says, man, you getting a little too big for your britches, all right? You're getting too big, so, man, you got to go. You couldn't, you outshining the master. You got to go. And so you get people that's basically forced to open up shops in that regard. But, man, listen, when I ask barbers, do they like to read? And they look at me like I'm crazy as hell. And so, in my mind, I think, so you mean to tell me you're going to barber school, or you've gone to barber school to be quote unquote your own boss and have your own business per se, and you don't read? You don't read books? You don't read books on business? To me, that's wild. That's wild for real. So, man, my journey in this industry has been fun. I've had my ups and downs, and I think that's what kind of gives me some unique insights to be able to share with you all, and I'm excited about it. I have a team. I have a whole team. A team and my peers. For me, it's my mentors, my peer group, and the team. All right, and we kind of, there's some intertwining there, but man, we got guys on the team that specialize in social and emotional intelligence. We got guys that specialize in corporate training and different things like that. Is the thing that makes your shop hum smooth, the culture, KPIs, things like that you really don't think to discuss when it comes to just the hair industry. But when you're talking about business, this is the thing to think about, especially when you're dealing with trying to run a shop, is at some point the goal is to not be behind a chair. At that point, my question is, what is the worth of the business at that point? All right? And what you'll find is there are shops the way the owners have set these shops up, what you'll find is that those shops are actually worthless, right? Like you'll say, man, I want X amount of dollars for this shop. I'm gonna sell my shop. I want X amount of dollars for the shop. And then then you pick some mythical price point to say this is what this shop is worth. And anybody with an understanding of business would say, where'd you get that number from? And this is the conversation I want to have in the space, because on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, you hear these conversations about six-figure barbers, and ultimately that's a conversation about top-line revenue. All right, that's a conversation of what I'm bringing in as a barber. Where I want to have the conversation, when this money comes through the door, hits your pocket, what do you do with it then? How do you put yourself in position to retire, right? Like, I told some students a while back, I said, man, listen, oftentimes what a CPA would do is a CPA, or not just a CPA, but tax professionals in general, right? Because not every tax professional is a CPA. You have some great, fantastic tax professionals that aren't CPAs. They have other designations, but nonetheless, a lot of times what tax professionals do for us, and really for entrepreneurs, period. But I'll narrow the scope and say for barbers, and I've had this conversation with barbers and cosmetologists and other, hair care professionals, locticians, and I've had this conversation. What a tax professional does is they come in automatically assume that you want you want to pay the least amount of taxes possible, which I'm all for paying the least amount of taxes possible. I'm for that, okay? What I'm not for is reducing income for the sake of just reducing income. Because what tends to happen there is you reduce your income for the sake of reducing income to not pay taxes, and what you don't realize is if you don't have any outside investments other than your barbershop or your chair, if you don't have any, if your money's not making money, then by the time you turn 60, 65, and you look to retire, you're not going to have no money. And so for me, I'm like, if you don't plan to invest, if you don't plan to put your money to work for you while you're working for the money, I told a barber one time, you have to work as hard, you have to put your money to work as hard as you're working. You can't outwork the dollar. You can't. You can't outwork your dollar. Your dollar can work around the clock, 365. And if you decide to do that, you die. you burn out. And so the goal is each week, to drop an episode each week, to drop some nuggets each week that to actionable nuggets, not just get out here and just talking to be talking. I don't believe in talking for the sake of talking. Although I'm a barber, I can talk. I don't believe in just talking just to be talking. So, the goal is to cover a range of topics that can potentially impact your business. We're going to have the solo episodes where it's just me and we're just digging into it. Some insightful interviews, some other takes, some other perspectives in this space, and then some group discussions, man. Like I can't wait to introduce you to the rest of the team on these group discussions, man, and those are gonna be lit. So in our discussions, man, these episodes, we're looking to tackle subjects like tax planning, business structures, actionable strategies that you can put in your business immediately to level your business up. And the goal is to provide you with practical information that can make a real difference in what you got going on. And I'll tell you, man, like what drives me and the team, our passion for the No Cap Guys podcast is the opportunity to democratize the knowledge in the hair industry, right? Like you say to yourself, man, they don't want us to know that. Like, man, they, what happens is, you go and you chopping it up with a tax professional and you find out that you owe X, Y, Z, A, B, C, and now you feeling played because somebody didn't give you information. Like somebody even give you the information and you feel like you're owed that information, and you might be owed that information. But bro, like this is why we're here. Like we're here for this. Well, we're like, hey man, look, we just gonna have a conversation with you, and you know, whatever questions and comments you got, man. Listen, find me on TikTok, the Chris Chaney, Instagram, the Chris Chaney. Then DM me, man. Like for real, like shoot me a question that you want me to talk about on the podcast. Like I want to help you as much as I possibly can, give you as much actionable information that can change the trajectory of where your business is going. I don't care how much money you're bringing through the door. All right? If you don't have a plan for that money, somebody has a plan for that money. Walmart got a plan for the money. The federal government got a plan for the money. Somebody has a plan for that money if you don't have a plan for your money. And I want every barber and hair care professional and beauty enthusiast, I want you to have the kind of information, access to the kind of information that the top 1% use to succeed. All right? Because these folks put their pants on one leg at a time, just like we do. All right? And if you and again, if you find what I'm saying valuable, subscribe to the podcast. Subscribe. Show us some love. Hey, we're gonna be everywhere, man. We're everywhere. You know what I mean? Everywhere we can be. Subscribe to the podcast. And again, connect with your boy on TikTok and Instagram, the Chris Chaney. Let me tell you this real quick. So I probably should have said it earlier on in the conversation. No cap, guys. You know, of course, man, I'll be 40 here in a few months. And so, like, I remember the first time I heard no cap. In my mind, I was like, what the hell are they talking about? You know what I mean? One of my little cousins, one of my younger cousins, he was the first person I heard that from. And I was thinking, what the hell is that? And he's like, man, I mean the truth. You know what I'm saying? The truth. And I was like, the truth, no cap. Okay. I mean, I guess I get it. I feel you. But for us in the podcast, what we wanted to do with the title, No Cap Guys, that's why I said it's the team, our team, No Cap Guys. Almost like Kevin Hart got the Plastic Cup Boys. Well, we got the No Cap Guys. You know what I'm saying? So, like, look. So it's like in our barbershop, what we would do was, like, you know, dudes would come in with baseball caps, and once we get them fresh, like, they would leave the cap, they would leave it, and so we would have a row of just hats left, and so guys leaving with no caps, and so what we wanted to do was just kind of marry the fact that, bro, what we do, we gonna get you sharp. You're gonna leave, and you're gonna be so clean that you're gonna forget your cap. But the reality of it is, we're going to leave you fresh and refreshed. And the refreshed is a mental refreshing to where we're going to give you the truth. The uncut, no chaser. You understand? No cap, guys. We here, and we're here for you. And, man, listen, like, we're excited, man. Like, so, man, I appreciate you for checking out this first episode of the No Cap Guys podcast, man. And, again, in future episodes, we're going to dive into tax planning strategies, explore different business structures, and just uncover practical concepts that you can implement, man, like right away to excel in not just the barber industry, but in the business of hair. So, again, thanks for joining me. Man, I'm excited. I'm excited to get down in the trenches with you on this journey. I'm excited to explore the world of barbers. Man, there's a lot of y'all out there, man. I wish I could meet every single one of you. Every single one. And not just barbers. Cosmetologists, hair care professionals. You know, if you're in beauty, like we're all in this, basically in the same space. You know what I mean? Doing some of the same stuff. So, man, I can't wait, man, to really to walk this journey with you all and to take this stuff to the next level, man. So, hey, stay tuned. Holla back, youngin'. Woo, woo.
Thanks for listening to the No Cap Guys podcast with your boy, the Chris Chaney, hashtag Gangsta Nerd. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a beat because we dropping that heat. Find me on Instagram and TikTok at the Chris Chaney. Also, my book, The Business of Hair, is available for you right now on Amazon and Audible. Hit the Linktree link in the bio and order your copy today. Yo, I'm an absolute audiobook junkie and a fan of Audible. Try Audible Premium Plus and get up to 2 books for free. That's in my Linktree link as well. Are you into continued education for personal and professional growth? Check out the Allison Courses link as well and the Linktree link for thousands of courses designed to improve you and your business. Need access to capital to grow your business? Cisterna Management LLC is an independent agent for David Allen Capital. If you have a business bank account and at least 3 months of bank statement, you could be eligible for funding to help grow your business. Hit the David Allen Capital link as well to see if you're eligible today. And remember, the information presented on our sites, blogs, podcasts, or any other media outlets are intended to be for your educational and entertainment purposes only. The views, information, or opinions expressed are solely those of the individuals involved. Past performances mentioned are not a reliable indicator of future results and or investments mentioned. The host assumes no responsibility or liability for any error or omissions in the content of this site or broadcast. The information contained on this site or broadcast is provided on an as-is basis with no guarantee of completeness, accuracy, usefulness, or timeliness of the aforementioned information. Only follow the advice of a qualified advisor.